Hi, and welcome to Drones and Under podcast. My name is Sean. We cover all things drones and related technology. Today, joining me, Paul from UA Visuals. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you very much for having me, Sean. It's been a while. I'm glad that we're finally
I think I've
doing
been
this.
chasing you for about a year and something, mate, I think.
Yeah, I think we had a conversation at the Christmas party last year, and it's, what is it, August
2022,
now?
I believe.
Well, no, come on. I think
So
it
I
was
finally
2020.
got to Paul's manager, his wife, and that's how I managed to get him on board. So I'm
That's
excited.
not a joke. Yeah. She was very excited when I said, I'm finally doing the podcast. Great.
Well, no, I appreciate it, Paul. I know you're a busy man, so it's great to have you. And we've got a few topics to talk about today. So Paul's been very kind enough to suggest a few topics, the first one being the Raptor. So I think it's a very interesting one to talk about. So let's, I'm just going to share my screen, Paul, just bear with me.
Yeah. So while you bring that up, I think the reason I want to talk about it is because it seems to be one of the solutions that we were having. Not that we're going to get a Raptor, not that it's even available in Australia as far as I'm aware at this stage, but we'd recently had issues getting approvals to fly drones in restricted airspace that were military restricted airspace. So we couldn't even we were doing some inspection work, and we couldn't even use the drone, not even flying, like on the ground. We couldn't even turn it on within the airspace and use it. So I know that for a little while now in the US market, DJI, there's been sort of like a ban or a ban incoming or being implemented within the DJI ecosystem. And this seems to be the way around that, where this Anzu Robotics have effectively bought the patents and the hardware or manufacturing builds, I guess you say. Now it's being manufactured in Malaysia, a USA-owned company, and they're actually being put together and assembled in the USA. And they've also got USA-based service. So it's a really interesting way that they're trying to find a way to still use, which is effectively DJI technology, but without any of the quote-unquote country or of origin issues that seem to be happening, or the conversations that have been happening. So it's essentially the exact same product as the Mavic 3 Thermal and Mavic 3 Enterprise, except with a different operating system, which not the Pilot 2 app. They've got their own system that they developed with Aloft, I believe. So
Aloft, that's got. Yep.
Yeah.
Have you seen the software by any chance?
I've only on the promotional videos and a couple of YouTube channels that I've seen. It does, I wouldn't call it clunky, but it doesn't seem as streamlined as what has been developed for the Pilot 2 app. The other interesting thing that they've decided to do is remove geofencing, which is an interesting decision. We all know, we've all had operations where we've had to get those additional approvals, and they say that, again, partnering with Aloft and their flight approval system is going to somehow streamline that whole process.
Right.
I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work. There are always going to be people who will flaunt the system and maybe not do the appropriate channels. So I'm not exactly sure how removing the geofencing is going to work. I do know that it probably will be beneficial for 90% of the work that might be done, but that extra 10% where I just don't know if I trust that people won't try and flaunt the systems just to try and get like a job done, I guess. So it's an interesting decision, to say the least.
And it's already being done with DJI drones, let alone things that don't allow you to fly there.
Indeed.
Yeah. So let's, I'm just going to scroll through, I think, this stuff we already seen, obviously.
Yeah, so I think a lot of well, firstly, the green. I mean, okay, I don't know if they've told us why they've chosen the green, but if they were going for a color scheme, why not make a few different color schemes? Why not have a red, a blue, mix and match?
Maybe military, who knows?
Yeah.
But you're right. I did look around. I can't find anything that talks about the color, as you mentioned. But I found, let me scroll overall. I think that's probably the most useful. You've already spoken about it being very much the Raptor being very much the Mavic 3 Enterprise, right? Which is
It literally is. So they bought the molds and everything off the DJI company in order to implement this, and it was essentially, I think, DJI's way of cutting losses, for lack of a better word, and still being able to utilize their technology in the United States. So they get, I guess, I'm not sure what the costs are in terms of if it's just upfront or they get a share of the profitability. I'm not sure, but essentially it's taking any kind of direct relationship from the get-go, from the manufacturing all the way to the assembly and then final sale, and even where the data is stored, it's on US servers, effectively cutting ties with any kind of ties to sort of China being the country of origin for anyone that is concerned with it. So I understand the reason that this is happening. It's fascinating to see. It will be fascinating to see how much this might be used within the United States now, because comparatively to, it's a more expensive drone to the DJI drones, mainly because I would say there's less production of them. There's probably licensing fees or the software development with Aloft to develop a new operating system for the controllers. I guess the being manufactured or being assembled in the United States, there's also the additional labor costs for that as well. And that'll sort of just adds up to an overall more expensive package. So it would be kind of a hard sell. Well, it wouldn't be so much of a hard sell. I mean, if the alternative is not being able to use a drone like that at all. So I can see the use for it, but I think it's only been released for a couple of months. So it will be interesting to see how far down the line this will, like how much, for lack of a better word, like legs this product has in the market in the next 12 months.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if the ban doesn't go ahead. What happens to the Anzu, right? Because effectively you're competing with their own hardware, which they won't really compete price-wise. As you said, it's dearer, but specs are identical. So if you looked at the, as we've got on the screen here, the hardware is essentially the same as the Mavic 3 Enterprise for the Raptor. So from the Aloft, some of the information I've got is it's obviously secure and encrypted and sitting on US servers. So that's clearly an important piece. Ability to flight mission plan, but as I've said, I haven't seen any software that shows all this. Airspace authorizations, live encrypted streaming capabilities. So I guess that we want to make sure that's all secure. Weather details for pilots. I'm not sure where the weather service is coming from. And then some flight telemetry playback. So that's whatever they're reusing some of the stuff that's already on there. The telemetry. That's kind of what I was able to find online. Is there anything else you want to cover?
No, not so much. But I think that being able to I'm interested to see if you can utilize third-party apps on this like you can with the Pilot 2 software. So the Android-based, being able to download, third parties like Drone Deploy or Drone Harmony or what have you onto the controller itself, and being able to also utilize those applications. I'm sure they should be able to, but I'm just curious to see if that's a possibility, because that will always, I guess, make it a more viable option for those who are looking for maybe more robust planning applications outside of
that's a good point.
It's developed.
And I guess it comes back to how many devices they're going to be building and selling, and otherwise these third-party companies, other companies have to spend money building things. So
that's it. Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's right. So they would need these other, third-party software developers would need to see it's worth their while to put the R&D in to potentially support the Anzu firmware, or software. So yeah, it'd be
Yeah.
interesting to see, something to keep an eye on, I think, in the next 12 months for sure, especially to see maybe what the next iterations of the Enterprise series are, whether or not this is going to be rolling out to the 30T. I wouldn't see them developing anything larger than that at this stage. I think it's too much of an investment for them. They're probably testing the waters with the M3E and M3T because, I mean, for our money, it's been such a reliable and robust drone. We've utilized that in almost every facet of asset inspections and surveying and mapping since its release. So they've definitely made the right choice going out to market with this drone, but I'd be interested to see if they want to sort of back themselves and, maybe do the 30T and 30 as well. So watch this
Yeah,
space.
and as you said, we talked offline as well, and I think the M3E clearly is probably the most selling enterprise drone for DJI, I would have thought.
Absolutely.
And it's a great price point. So if you're going to take a risk, you probably want to take a risk at the entry-level enterprise.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's it. But yeah, I just wanted to sort of bring it up to kick this off because, we're always excited about new drones, even though this isn't really a new drone. But it's an interesting shake-up, I guess, in the space and sort of a show of things to potentially come, especially in the US market.
Yeah. And as the screens share there, and you've talked about before, there's the Raptor T, which is the thermal equivalent, or the Mavic 3 Mavic 3 thermal, sorry.
Yeah.
So we've already touched on that, same hardware specs. So I guess we'll look forward to someone talking about the software when it does come out eventually.
Indeed, yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think it's available in Australia just yet.
No, and like you said, if they're running on US-based servers, I wonder how that's all going to work.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
we'll probably have to look for other options outside of the Raptor in Australia, but we'll see what happens.
But I guess just talking about new drones, I guess could we talk about this? I think this was leaked a couple of months ago, or maybe it was last month. The potential Mavic 4 coming to market. When that is, I'm not sure. But this is one of the images that has been leaked. And as you can see, there seems to be a more robust sensor system up here with this additional upward-facing sensor here. And then this triple camera payload again. Let me just get rid of it.
That just looks mad, doesn't it? That old
wood. The first thing I think about is huge. I'm looking at this and going, how are they going to do third-party filters? How are they going to mount the filters on here? That's what I'm thinking. But it does look like these are larger, and I guess one of the best
you're
things.
You're a creative nerd. You're thinking about ND filters.
Of course. You can see I was shopping for a Ryobi thing there. And so one of the things, I guess, like they do mention here, enhanced camera system, of course, the Mavic 3 Pro having this triple camera payload. And after the firmware updates, bringing D-Log-M to all 3 camera payloads was so great for versatile creativity in the skies. But that 7 times still left a lot to be desired from a, I guess, resolution or clarity, or even just usability, I guess. It was still a very noisy image if you weren't able to sort of expose correctly, and if you were shooting in scenes that weren't very well lit. But I think one of the biggest, if they can implement variable apertures into the medium tele and tele camera, then that's certainly a huge upsell for me. So essentially meaning that you don't need to worry in terms of your exposure. You have an aperture, another option to control your exposure in the air, because most of the time, if you're just shooting with the wide and you'll select your filter for the lighting condition, if you don't get it quite right, you can still use your aperture to hone in your exposure. But if you then want to quickly switch to the 3x or the 7x, and that's only got the fixed aperture, I think it was 2.8 maybe on the 3x and 2.7 or 3.2 on the 3x, or maybe they're both 2.8, but regardless.
70 mil lens, right? I've seen the 3
Yeah,
times.
70 mil or 3x, which is amazing option. And I rarely use the 7x. But what I mean is just having that extra ability to control your exposure with that aperture option would be huge, as well as larger sensors. It does look like it's maybe slightly larger, but by how much, we're not too sure. But this is interesting here with the advanced AI capabilities, where they say, given the rapid advancements in AI, seeing more sophisticated autonomous flight, obstacle avoidance, tracking features. So, even within the drone space, it seems that we're going to be seeing advancements in AI, and just be interesting to see how those get applied to it. So I just wanted to, sort of bring that to your listeners or viewers' attention if they haven't already been aware that it seems like the Mavic 4 Pro will be coming, I'd say early to mid 2024, because this model here, this looks like it's pretty close to getting ready to ramp up production. It looks like they've molded the shell, they've got it all. This is like a crashed prototype, of course. Yeah, so maybe the AI algorithm wasn't working very well, but it looks like it's something that's will be hitting our shores sometime next year. But is it worth the upgrade? They're going to have to make some pretty outside the sensor sizes and the upgrading the camera sensors and the aperture, ability to have a variable aperture. And I don't know how much you can throw at the automated features to make it much more impressive than the Mavic 3 Pro, which is already a really impressive drone. So it'll be interesting to see. And then on the back of that, I guess, if there are any other enterprise features that might potentially be available. The other thing, will probably also update the transmission system and use the new OS 4, I believe, 4.0, that the Mini 4 Pro has, with the and there'll probably be also a new RC Pro controller. I would imagine that would come out with it too. Again, updating their transmission system.
Of course, they've got it, because you're going to be reusing anything that's old.
Well, yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. But I mean, I've been very impressed, specifically, with just talking about transmissions, like the Mini 4 Pro, the OcuSync 4.0 is really quite impressive. We had to utilize it recently for some modeling, which you don't always want to do because it's at such a low aperture, but we were kind of limited to a small space that we needed to get into and capture. But we were having huge interference issues. It was under a bridge.
Yep.
And the RC signal was throwing, the Mavic 3 Enterprise was just having a fit. It would enter these pockets of area, and even though we had if we had our braking systems on with the sensors, all of a sudden we just get this red glow on the sensors that there was some interference there, and we had to turn off all the sensors, and then it would sort of bug out a little bit and move around, and just really freaked us out. So we grounded that and pulled out the Mavic 4 Pro, and it was just rock solid in the same areas. And the only thing we could think of was putting it down to the transmission system. We had the RTK on the Mavic 3 Enterprise and all of that connected, but flying in the exact same areas with the Mavic 4 Pro, it was rock solid. So for the new enterprise systems, drones, if they bring a new transmission system to it, coupled with the RTK compatibility, then it's going to be a beast of a drone for sure.
So outside of the aperture control that you talked about for the tele and zoom lens that you'd like to see in the Mavic 4, what are some of the other improvements with the Mavic 3 Pro that you think you'd like to see, I guess? I mean, we can only
sure. Yeah. Well, yeah. So, of course, the updated transmission. I don't think they can do anything to the camera payloads themselves. I think 3 times and 7 times are perfect steps to what you probably want to use creatively. I would say increasing that sensor size to increase your fidelity, especially on the 7 times, would be amazing. I would say you could see the Hasselblad name on the camera hood. So of course the wide is going to be a Hasselblad camera system, but I wouldn't say that I believe the sensors at the moment on the Mavic 3 Pro outside the wide. Yeah, I believe it's only the wide that's a Hasselblad.
Okay, right.
The other ones I believe are DJI's proprietary or whatever their own sensors. It's just the wide camera that is the Hasselblad camera and Hasselblad sensor. So whether or not they've worked with Hasselblad to bring that to the medium tele and the tele camera, that'd be amazing. And then I think the automated features, the automated features that they currently have, like your active track, I still think leaves a lot to be desired. Even at 4.0, I think we're currently at. It's fine. It's usable, but the main thing that we use is Spotlight when we're doing anything creative. That is still pretty powerful. But yeah, the active track, it's not always the smoothest operating automated feature. So it'll be interesting to see if they do integrate some more of the AI that they've been talking about to do better tracking. That would be an exciting thing to see. And then maybe let's get 50-minute flight time. That'd be nice.
Please.
Why not?
Well, I guess flight time is such a subjective thing. Is that wind, as you well know, can change a lot of that. So
yeah, indeed. Yeah,
cool. So it's definitely exciting, and you kind of look at some of the technology. You already touched on the Mini 4 Pro. Obviously, we've talked about the Mavic 3 Pro briefly. What they pack in, I think we forget where we were 3 or 4 years ago and how technology's evolved from DJI. You always wonder, what can they do for the next generation? And clearly, it's a big part has got to be the AI or that software component, I think. Because the hardware, other than you, where you're sort of pushing the boundaries on the creative, most 95% of consumers aren't going to be using what you would be doing. So you kind of see, what are they doing with these sensor sizes? What are they doing with lenses? It's the quality of this consumer stuff's so good, don't you think?
It is so good. And it becomes a lot more accessible, I guess, with every iteration of the drones or just any camera technology at all. It's become the gap between pro and consumer, it's created the market of prosumer, right? Where these drones that come out, the DSLRs, the Sony releases cameras that, are being shot for major epic motion pictures. Sure, you need to know how to use it, and you need to know how to do the post-production and get everything else that you need out of it. But the gear's there. You just need to educate yourself on how to use it. So from the drone space as well, I couldn't think of any other industry that allows you for, maybe $500 to get your first drone. But with that drone, you could be shooting real estate and getting your foot in the door and doing some regular work for a real estate company down the road. And then from there, build up your skills and then invest back into the next drone and the next drone. But the barrier of entry is so low now where it really is accessible to almost everyone. If you have the interest, it's not just, a hobby anymore. It's people like you and myself who has been able to, luckily enough, make careers out of flying drones.
Don't put me into your much more.
Well, yeah, sure. I know. I do know. You've got the industrial applications that there is a bit more of an investment up front to get into, but even that, mean, do you remember how much the Mavic 2 Advanced was when it first came out?
I was
I think it
11,
was
10,
somewhere.
11,000 or close to
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah, that's right. And now the Mavic 3 Enterprise you can get for 7.
Yeah.
So it's something, and that drone can do vastly more than what that did. But that's just a sign of the times where technology evolves, and then the applications are so much more robust that they are able to pack it all down, and they don't need to spend the R&D that they have done on the first iteration of like the Mavic 2 Enterprise. All that's already done. They've made their money back on that, and now they can sell a more robust, powerful package to those who are looking to get into the market. And now I'm not saying that it's easy to do. $7,000 is a lot of money for people, especially these days. But what I mean is that who knows that down the road they might be releasing an enterprise drone for $3,000. Who knows? It does seem to be very exciting.
Without having to break the bank and not spend
Yeah.
7,000, where can our listeners and viewers go to learn more?
Well, thank you for the segue. Well, we've back in 2020 through COVID, we developed a Drone Masterclass Academy, Aaron and myself, and we just started with a couple of courses. And we've recently refreshed those courses. We've got an inspection course, a real estate course, a editing course, a video course, which is our most recent course. And that course sort of takes you through everything from the specifications behind bit rates and things that you might not think you need to know, but it is good to know. And it's a one-stop shop for anything that you would ever want to know about drone video. So yeah, feel free to head on to the website that is down below. We do have a promo code.
Academy.com for our listeners.
Yep, that's it. And there are a bunch of free resources there as well that you can download. We've got light packs, a whole bunch of different things that you might find usable, or a way to kickstart your drone career, or educate yourself if you already know a bit but want to sort of level up. And we're always looking to develop new courses. So yeah, keep checking back on the page, but we'll check in the link below, and there will be a discount code in there if you are interested on checking out any of the courses.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul. Local guys, go support them. Keep buying more courses, and they are very affordable. So that's the great thing. As Paul touched on, you don't want to be breaking the bank learning something new if you're not quite sure. So it's something you definitely want to have a look into. Got one more topic, Paul. So we're going to talk a little bit about flight planning software, I believe.
Yeah. This is something I wanted to bring up because I know yourself and myself, we've come from the space of manual flying, right? Sure, there's mapping, automated mapping procedures that you can do with like Pilot 2 apps, or other software like Drone Deploy, that you can implement in your parameters and do your flight mission mapping for roofs or areas, terrain, what have you. But when it comes to sort of more complex assets, structures, or when it comes to more complex mapping or modeling or asset inspections that include facades and the sides of structures, that's when you can do those processes manually, but it sort of gets to a point where the manual process, there's a fine line where you might be taking too much, you maybe getting too, sorry, it might get to a point where you are capturing too much. And if you do that, your processing might be over budget and might take too long, or you might not capture enough. And it all comes down to your experience on being able to map something like that manually, right?
Yeah.
But there's been we've discovered recently through the need to get more robust automated ways on doing facade captures, and sure, DJI's Pilot 2 app has some geometric mapping and facade mapping as well that they've implemented, which is great. It's great to see they're using sort of the augmented reality that comes with RTK positioning to be able to utilize those. But there are some things that we'd like to see improved on those existing mission planning in the Pilot 2 app. And one of the apps, third-party apps that we had come across recently was Drone Harmony. Now, we had used this platform many years ago, probably when it first initially came out, and for whatever reason, didn't really work for us at the time. We could get away with the usual, just mapping software that we had been using through the DJI software. But most recently, they have come out with a robust asset management workflow, as well as just a more robust way to be able to do more complex modeling around more complex structures. So I'll actually show you an example that we had recently done for a software. Let me just bring this up. Sorry, I'll just share my screen with you.
Yeah, that's good.
So we had a project in Shoal Bay in New South Wales. And this project was one that we couldn't get to in advance. We had to fly to the location. So it was something, and the brief from the client was to put a telecommunication something on the roof for telecommunication purposes. So they wanted a roof inspection. They wanted to get some measurements out of that. So this is going to be just a map and model of the roof. And we thought, oh, well, let's build this out. Let's get them an AGL of the actual roof and the structure, because they might need to bring in a crane and other elements. So we kind of wanted to treat it as a bit of a use case, I guess, to show the power of the software. So one of the challenges that we had is trying to plan this in advance, especially for the facade elements of it. So one thing that we discovered through chatting with Adam at Drone Harmony is that we were able to implement some point cloud data, which we received through a site called Elvis. And this is we've started to develop the process in our workflow of rapid point cloud mapping, and essentially turning up to a site, doing a basic oblique capture, relatively 60 meters, at least -80 on the gimbal, and then just running that through very basic point cloud, and then uploading that into the software like Drone Harmony to then get our basic outline of the structure, as well as show where any hazards might be around it, close buildings, trees, things like that. And then from there, we can build a polygon to then base our flight paths on. So I'll just show you an example. I won't show you about where we got the free point cloud data from. We can do that on another episode. But essentially, what we've got here is this is the plan as itself. So you can see here, this is where we were at. I'm just going to get rid of the areas here, and I'll just show you. And all right, so here we go. Yeah. So this is the point cloud data that we were able to ascertain from the website called Elvis, and it's an elevation and depth spatial data website. And I'll show you that another time. But essentially, we were able to get this point cloud data in advance, so we didn't need to turn up on site and do a rapid point cloud there, because they would need to bring our big bulky laptop to be able to process that, and we wanted to make this as seamless as possible. And because we were able to load this up, we could automatically get the I'll just wait until
the height of the building.
Yeah, so we could already find out what the actual altitude was going to be. We could see, all right, this building over here, what the elevation is for that as well. There's a building here, and there's also some trees down here. Now, this data that we got was from 2018, so the trees might have grown. But from here, because we could sort of see the structure, what we could do is then build on top of that our model of the building that we wanted to actually model. And we could also place our hazards. So here's some trees around here that might have grown. We weren't sure. That was something that we were going to check when we were on site. And then from there, we could essentially plan our flight mission. And what you can do when you do plan this is you can select which structure you want to base your flight plan on. So we did a flight 10 meters above the a double grid, 10 meters above, and then another one slightly wider with a -80 on the gimbal, another double grid, and then we did some facades inspections. So I just wanted to show you how sort of simple, I guess, it is in terms of being able to do something like a facade inspection utilizing drone harmony. So if I just show you here, so these are the different things that you can do. You can do terrain, tower, solar, and if you're looking to do an inspection, so they do have specific facade inspections here, or the perimeter. So facades generally just one single face, but because we wanted to capture the entire way around, we just did a facade inspection. And perimeter, you can choose whether or not you want to do verticals or horizontals. And then we choose our target polygon, for lack of a better word. So we wanted to do it around the top. And then you just select your takeoff and landing point, confirm position. And then here we can see, so it's just automated it based on our flight parameters. Now, if these trees were slightly higher, if these trees were sort of 18 meters, what this would do is this would actually, it wouldn't put waypoints here. The waypoints would actually be removed and make sure there's enough space where those where the hazards are, I guess. And then from here, then you can just adapt. You can offset sort of your starting altitude. So you can move it up a bit. You can change your side offset, so how far away from the structure you want to be. And again, the top offset, so essentially from the top, if you want to extend up how high you're going. And then the overlap, that's where you can check, you can change your overlap about your data. So you can, whereas if you're doing this manually, you're basing it on experience and visualizing, maybe using the grid guides when you're doing a manual capture, going up and down, being able to, for lack of a better word, eyeball it to make sure that you're getting the coverage you want. And you might be overshooting it because you're being cautious. Again, it can lead to too much data or maybe not enough. And we're looking for that Goldilocks zone where it's not too much, it's not too little, it's just the amount that you need. And that's where this type of mission planning is being super effective. And say, for instance, if you don't want to do the entire thing, you want to make sure you're maintaining visual line of sight at all times, which is, of course, you do. We actually had someone posted on the other side here, so we can make sure that we can see it. But say, for instance, you couldn't get over to the other side, you can change this to, say, 50%. And you can split this mission up, and it's just going to do one half of it, and you can move it around to where you want it to go. So it's something like that. And then, you can change the gimbal pitch if you wanted to, and then you can also adapt these individually, highlight the waypoints and change them. But it's just something like that is allowing you to plan in advance, especially say if you are able to get point cloud data in advance, or if not, it's still relatively accurate in terms of your Google references. Like the XY is generally pretty accurate. It's just the being able to, so as you can see here, it's slightly off. So that's where the point cloud data was giving us some more accurate data based, as opposed to what the Google Maps was giving us, I guess.
Yeah. And a
Yeah,
question, is it doing any kind of validation between the roof capture and the facades? Is there any kind of intelligence to say you haven't got a gap between? 'Cause that's fairly common when you fly manually, right? If you don't have enough
yeah,
overlap between the two.
yeah.
Have they
You're
built
talking
any?
about the roof to the side facades?
Yeah, yeah. So because obviously you've run a mission on the roof, and
Yep,
then you've gone and done your facades.
yep.
You might,
We've run a couple of missions on the roof, yeah.
I don't know what heights you were doing the roof at, but um, is there a way for it to say, yeah, you've covered the building as far as capturing the roof and
I'm not sure.
sides?
I'm not
Right.
sure, but that's definitely something that I will ask the guys because we're sort of currently just wanting to like test out the software and see what we're because even though what I was talking about being able to implement these flight plans right, you can still overshoot it doing
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can plan too much as well, right? So like you said, that would be it might be available. I'm not sure. We haven't come across that validation data, but all we're using is our experience to go, okay, if we're flying 10 meters above, all right, let's do a double grid there. Let's get the detail and then to fill that in, let's go 20 meters above, do a double grid slightly wider out. And then we've also got some perimeters that we're going around as well.
Yeah.
And that's going around the actual base structure there and looking down. And then we're doing the vertical inspections. So I can show you the end result of what we ended up getting. And I'll do that now if you want. But for the time that at the end of the day, what would be ideal is we could send this mission plan to an operator who has a Mavic 3 Enterprise and get them to execute the mission for us instead of us needing to mobilize and fly up there and do all that. Now, we wouldn't have done that this time round because we're still testing out the software and making sure that we're happy with the accuracy of it and the reliability of it. We were connected to an in-trip service here because we had to fly. We didn't want to bring our base station, but we didn't have any issues at all in terms of the execution of this plan. Everything, the drone went exactly where we thought it was going to go, and the elevation of the structure was exactly what the point cloud said it was, and the trees around the side actually hadn't grown much at all, or they'd been trimmed down, so that wasn't an issue. So the overall mission just sort of went off without a hitch. And so if we were to do this manually, it wouldn't be too much of a hassle. But as soon as you start to get around to these edges here, knowing that we would probably want to be on the roof ourselves, we actually had access to a balcony up here, so we could visual on a side of this all the way around, and then we could walk around the back here as well and see it as it was coming around the back. But even still, it's one of those things where being able to automate missions around complex structures with software like this is something that we're excited to sort of see the development of and find that sweet spot where we can plan effectively, plan efficiently, be able to have a local operator do the project for us to save costs and pass those on to the client. So it's an exciting sort of space that we can see being developed with a lot of these third-party softwares, and it's something that we've been starting to investigate a lot more with projects that require more detailed inspections. Now, this project itself, this wasn't we didn't need to do the facades. We were kind of doing that just to build out the final structure to show the client. But it was also a good use case for us to sort of test it out as to see how that would actually look. And this is what the final structure
I have
looks
two
like.
questions for you, Paul, on that. Where you had the tree heights, I think had 18 meters. What do you recommend to keep the cylinder? I presume the actual trees are a bit shorter than 18 meters. You kind of have any kind of recommendations for the viewers to stick with?
So do you mean regarding the height that we had set the trees at?
Yeah, so I think you had 18 meters, and I presume the actual trees aren't at 18 meters.
So we had the trees. I'll actually share that again. We had the trees at 14 meters, and that was based on the point cloud data that we had, but then also just giving it a little bit extra height as well, just in case. But if you, so I think it was, I think the 18 meters that you were seeing was the perimeter that we were doing, and this was the start. The lowest point was 80 meters. So we were just looking to sort of get the top coverage of that.
So you got a good 4 sort of meters plus something clear.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other one I had was, how far do you recommend when you're doing the facades to sort of allow the drone from the building?
That depends on this one in particular. We were happy to be, I think the offset was about 12 meters, just so we could fill it in to a level that we were happy with to show the client, but they didn't need to see too much detail. Plus, this was like residential apartments. Prior to going out there, the building managers will let them know there's going to be drone activity going on. So we didn't want to get too close to the sides anyway and peek into anyone's balconies or anything like that. So they were made aware of what was going on. But this whole operation took about an hour on site. So that's pretty efficient for getting, a couple of mapping missions, an orbit, as well as, a nice facade coverage. To be able to do that, like this mission here said 6 minutes, but that was with moving at 2 meters a second. You can change your parameters whether or not when you actually execute the mission, if you want it to fly continuously or fly, take a photo, fly, take a photo, fly, take a photo, which of course will increase your time, but you might be getting a little bit more, maybe better data with the mechanical shutter. Not so much of an issue with the Mavic 3 Enterprise, but you can change the flight speed parameters here and then change them just before you launch in case you want to fly a little bit slower.
So you mentioned you on site, obviously. How long did it take to sort of do the planning aspect?
We were probably on site. We were on site probably for about 2 hours in total, I'd say. The actual flight time was about an hour, but, just setting up areas, making sure that we've got pedestrian and traffic management. It wasn't really a busy road. But the actual flight planning, that probably took, now that I know how this whole thing works, I could do it in 10 minutes, I guess. In terms of actually like setting up these missions, but there was a little bit of time in getting the point cloud data. But because I think we treated this a little bit differently because we were going on site in another state to do this. So putting the pre-production time, which we built into factored into our costings to actually build this out. We probably spent maybe 4 hours, I think, like getting the point cloud data, cleaning it up, putting it into this, and then developing the flight plans based on the point cloud data that we had in advance. So it's definitely a specific use case because you're not always going to be able to get this point cloud data in advance. You'll most likely try and do like a rapid point cloud. If it's in your local area, maybe the day before, to be able to plan something like this. If there is a concern of hazards around, it probably wouldn't be so much of an issue if it's a clear area and the structure is pretty simple. And I know that a lot of, say, DJI, I think Flight Hub too, has it, which it does have basic geometric structures for most built-up areas that you can use to build some flight parameters around. But using point clouds is something that we're starting to use a lot more in our workflow, just to fly with more confidence, I guess, specifically when you're doing facades because of the hazards that might be around, I guess, around the area.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's obviously it's been a while since I've seen Drone Harmony, and clearly they've come a long way. It's good to see that. They're a great company too. So
they reached out to us. They saw one of the a video that we did recently about our asset inspection workflow. We were doing some lighting inspections for our local council, sports lighting, and they just wanted to do a bit of an audit. And we were just talking about our workflow, how we plotted it on mind maps. We needed to process the data and rename it a specific way. We needed to utilize Flight Hub 2 to integrate that into our flight controller so that the pilot could see straight away what the next asset was and the location of it, so they could just fly straight to it and pre-populate that and then use My Maps to check everything off. And we kind of went through our whole thing, and then they contacted and said, hey, we've got this asset management system that does all that, but just in one application. So that piqued our interest, and then we've tested out and it does exactly as it says it does. But then we went, okay, well, we've got this other project coming up. Can we utilize your software in this way? And they were like, yeah, you can actually, and this is how you can do it. So it's been a really exciting sort of relationship that was kind of been struck up just organically. And so we're excited to see where it goes. I mean, it's great to see companies sort of being able to recognize the need for asset management solutions within the software itself. Sure, you've got asset management platforms and other ways that you can process data, but actually having it in the controller itself as part of the workflow is super, super handy. So we'll definitely be doing a video of that on our YouTube channel a little bit later on. I'll just show you. This is the model that we ended up doing. And basically for what they needed it's just needing to get measurements, manhole, or these not manhole covers, these are covers that have the fans in them. But yeah, they're essentially going to be putting some telecommunication data up there. But for what we needed to deliver to the client, this was something that we were more than happy with the results with. So being able to do that just through, sure, we did have some time spent on the pre-production side, but that's where a lot, I think, of your time usually is spent, the actual flying of the drone. Unless you're doing it manually on something like this, if you are able to find solutions to automate and make the life of the pilots a little bit easier, because as you know, flying manually, this structure seems okay, but if you're doing something like a giant bridge, it can really take the bandwidth of the pilots. It can take a toll over many days doing it manually. So,
of course,
there's certainly a sweet spot where it's viable to do automated flights like this, but maybe there are some situations where doing it manually is the better solution. But for this use case, it was definitely something that we were happy that turned out the way it did.
And I think it's also part, as we've talked offline, the manual aspect you understand the constraints when you're doing photogrammetry and what you need to actually need to process. So that allows you to create the mission. So I think that's a big factor. Most people just go software first, not understanding some of the rules of photogrammetry. So that's where they get themselves into trouble. But I think it'd be good to do in another episode just to unpack some of the RTK challenges on site, especially more complex structures. We've all done buildings, and we know that it's automated or manual. They're very stressful for all of us, no matter how many you do them. They're never the same, and the anxiety level's always the same. So,
who knew? All buildings are different. But yes, that's true. Yeah. Do you have a particular project that was difficult that you could talk about?
Every one of them, Paul. Every one of them.
Correct answer. Yeah, no, they all have their own unique challenges. So we're looking for ways to find make the ones that we can simpler by implementing automated processes like this. You're never going to get away from manual flying. That's just the nature of the beast. At this stage, well, who knows where AI is going to be in the next 10 years' time, or 5 years' time, even 2 years' time. But yeah, manual flying will still be here. So you still need to know how to operate the drone and like you said, though, the other important factor, the flip side of that coin, is how the data actually gets processed. So even if you are setting up automated flights, are you getting enough overlap, and are the angles correct? Are you close enough, further enough away to connect those assets, components that you capture? You need to know all that stuff, as well as the capture process, the capture and the post-production. If you're in that space, you need to know both of those things to capture effectively, because like I mentioned before, there is that Goldilocks zone of shooting too much or shooting too little. You want to get it just right.
Yeah, and I think we can definitely do a bit. I think we should. I'm sure we've both done enough complex projects where people don't understand all of the planning that goes into it. Even though you mentioned it's an hour on site, an hour prep and post, that's because you've done many complex jobs. You know where to identify the risks and hazards. So I think it's good to kind of pick one or two projects that we can just talk about what we do as two independent organizations to show.
Yeah.
Because flying the drone is secondary, as you know, right? So
it is. Yeah. Sometimes that's the easiest button.
No, it's look, there's a lot of learning for me too. I haven't seen drone hunting in a long time, so I think it'll be good to kind of see. Maybe we can get David on and let him showcase some of his new features. Yeah. And then you can barrage him with a lot more technical questions.
Yeah. That's a good idea. No, it is good. Yeah, the company, I think it's US based, but the guys that we're sort of working directly with, or one of the guys, Adam, he's an Australian. He's from Perth originally, like myself and Aaron. So it's interesting. I guess working with, well, just discussing with an Australian based in America about a software that should be available. Well, it's a super powerful software that hopefully anyone in the world can try out and see if it works for them. Because like all these third parties, they usually are a subscription-based software, and like we also mentioned offline, it's about how does this software and the costs associated with it benefit your business as a whole, because it is at the end of the day another cost to your business and running your business. And maybe it's not a viable solution because the overhead's too much, and there are other softwares out there that might be more affordable to you, or just using the free pilot software as well. But it's something that with all people, I guess, that are interested in the drone world, just looking for new ways that people are finding solutions to problems that can be solved using really good stuff.
To what you're saying. Yeah, we can get efficiency. We're saving some money for us and customers. So
yeah, for sure.
That's awesome, Paul. So there we go. We've covered lots of topics there. We've covered the Raptor and the rumor, hopefully, of the Mavic 4, and a really good dive I felt into flight planning using Drone Harmony. So that's awesome, Paul. Thanks for sharing. And I'm sure you'll be back soon, and we'll come up with some new topics and we'll get this going again. So until next time, don't forget to subscribe and follow us. Go follow the Visuals guys. I know they got a lot of subscribers. Buy their courses. And thank you for your time, Paul. Next one.
Right, thank you for having us, Sean. I appreciate it. No, I was going to say, we've got our YouTube channel as well. Just Google it on YouTube, UA Visuals. And we do a lot of sort of how-tos, but we do have a vlog series that we put up when we get time to create them. And I'm not sure when this is being posted, Sean, but if you're into Hunted, we're just on Hunted the past couple of nights, just assisting the ground hunters with some tracking down fugitives. So check that out as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hopefully within the next few days, Paul, within a week.
Cool.
So
cool.
Soon.
All right.
So for the real goodbye. Thank you again, Paul.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Very much.
Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
Sean. See you next time. Bye.